problem is, how much do you trust Baker? Are you there yet? He has not turned the ball over this year. He has not thrown an interception. Is that going to happen sometime soon? Yeah, it's just like we talked about earlier, it's not the Bears. So what's Tampa truly going to look like? You face two teams in the NFC North. You face two teams that are 0-3 in Minnesota and Chicago, and this is going to be quite different facing this Eagles squad. They're dealing with some issues now, but they're still a Super Bowl contender. They're still, viewed as top 5, top 6 team in the NFL, as they should be, Aaron.
Baker Mayfield has the third highest quarterback PFF grade in the league. You've got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. I think that the Bucs are in a good position. The Eagles secondary has not been that great so far, guys. They've been struggling. Philly has allowed both Kirk Cousins and Mac Jones to put up 300-plus yards. That concerns me. But I kind of like the Bucs to cover. They've sort of been a little bit of a surprise, exceeding expectations. And until Philly can show me otherwise, I think they're a bit vulnerable.
I would make an argument for the under here. I'm expecting a lower scoring contest, in part because one of the problems that I think the Eagles defense has had is just the ability to get home. They have a sack rate of 4%, despite having, an incredibly high pressure rate, as they have tended to do over these last couple of years. They're taking on Baker Mayfield. He has a high pressure rate of near 50%. And even though he makes mistakes that will cause sacks, he will hang on to the ball too long. He'll try and run around and make something happen, and then it's not available. He's a very frustrating quarterback in that regard. It's one of those things where I think he can invite enough pressure and enough sacks to where I think, they're just not going to score very much. Not to mention, the Eagles have been phenomenal with run defense, and the Bucs can't run the ball at all. So this is entirely upon Baker Mayfield. And the Eagles aren't going to help because they don't put that many defenders in the box. They put 7 or fewer defenders in the box more than any other team in football because they can do that. They know that secondary will be just fine. And so this is a Baker Mayfield game, and that always is a scary proposition for me. Meanwhile, the Eagles may be more comfortable running than anything else, which means fewer drives, fewer possessions, things like that. The Eagles could win this one going away, but it could be like a 38-3 affair, and that would be an under. Not saying that's what's going to happen. I think the number is fairly sharp, but I just don't trust either offense to put up a ton of points and do their share. So the under is the play for me, Joe.
Okay, if I had to do something with the side, I would go Eagles, but I don't have a strong enough opinion. I've got a couple prop ideas that I want to throw your way. Mentioned Baker doesn't have any interceptions yet. If a team's going to be trailing, I expect it to be the Bucs. Will he be forced to pass late? Negative game script. Then how does it go for Baker Mayfield? Minus 115 to throw his first interception of the year. Considering that one, and with that Eagles front 7, like just getting pressure on Baker, and then he forces one. I could see that happening tonight. And then, it's always dicey with the Eagles running backs. We don't know what's going to happen. Swift, after that massive game last Thursday, what happens? Well, the Swift prop is 32.5 rushing yards. So
that's
how
it.
much? Yeah. So are they expecting Gainwell mostly, or like what kind of split?
Can I give you one proviso there real fast, though, to be careful about when it comes to Swift? The Bucs do stack the box a lot. And they're going to do that because of how well the Eagles ran the football last week. So I think it's something where this Bucs defense, as top-heavy as it is, not a lot of depth, but if they are healthy, they are stacking the box and preventing the run and forcing Jalen Hurts to throw a little bit more. Not to mention something you've talked about before. Every now and again, maybe there's an Eagles game where you're not exactly sure who the bell cow back's going to be. We assume it's going to be Swift. But what if something happens last minute where maybe Swift isn't getting as many carries? I think the matchup is concerning, and just the overall distribution of snaps and carries can be concerning. Rams and Bengals. Joe Burrow's status is, of course, the headline in this one. Since he's still a 1.5-point favorite at home, the total is 43.5, Joe.
I don't think he's playing. What do you guys think? I'm just trying to read between the lines, and I was questioning late last week why they get rid of Will Grier, And then what they do over the weekend, they sign A.J. McCarron. So the number keeps going down. We saw it hit 3, and since then it's come down. BetMGM's at 1.5. There are some 2s still posted. I don't think he's playing. I don't know. But even if he does play, we know Burrow is not going to be 100%. How has that looked over the first couple of games? Do we expect there to be a big difference between week 2 and week 3 when it's been re-aggravated? I would say probably not. So either you could have the backup or to beat up Burrow. I don't think it's good for the Bengals either way. I'm looking at the under. I know it's a low number here, 43 in the hook, but I'm looking at the under here at Rams Bengals.
I'm looking at Rams money line. We're going to the playoffs, remember?
Plus
0-3? 0-3 Bengals?
I think
oh
so.
My God.
The money line is only plus 110, so it's not that bold of me to say Rams money line. But I still feel like the Rams are exceeding expectations, almost like they're playing with house money right now. I think they keep it going against a banged up Bengals team, and gosh, I mean, they're just struggling out of the gate. If Burrow doesn't play, and Joe pointed out some factors as to why we may be able to assume he's not, I like the Rams with the upset here.
That team right now, you look at air yards per target, you look at air yards per passing attempt, you look at net yards per play. The Bengals offense is the worst in football along those metrics. And that was with Burrow. I know that the defense only gives up 18 a game at home the last 2 years under Anarumo. I know the Rams scored 14 a game on the road last year. Now, this is probably a better Rams team, but I also think this is a tough spot for them against a desperate team that does have a pedigree, flying all the way across country. It's not one of their rivals, getting up to play the Seahawks in week 1. And what's Stafford going to look like as we get into this and he gets knocked around a little bit? So I lean under there. It's not a huge play for me. It's more just based on that and the fact that these primetime games have been garbage and that week 1 was a week of unders and week 3 was a week of overs and week 2 was a week of overs and now week 3 has been a lot of unders. So I'm just kind of riding that trend. I'll make, I'll sprinkle a little bit. And yeah, I think the Eagles probably win this football game. I'm not going to, I'm not dead set on that. And I think Hurts probably gets in the end zone. I think they'll need him to get in the end zone. So I'll tie those two together and play that.